Sure.
Hi Sunil, how are you doing?
Good. One of my analysts will be joining in a minute or so. But we
Okay.
can start. Yeah.
Okay, long time since we
Long
met.
long time. Nice to see you as smiling and fit as ever.
Well, firstly, also let me congratulate you, because I will introduce my team to you. I was telling them about
Sure.
you, about how you used to come when you were a young analyst and I was a young industrialist and I was busy building my little garage of the aerospace stuff at the back.
Right.
And it's really interesting to
The
see
first
what
time
you
I
have.
bought Dynamatic, I think the market cap was 15 crores. We were 5 crores
Exactly.
in equity, and I think 30 rupees was the price or something.
You're amazing. I met you when you were a young analyst and you bought in at right in the beginning when nobody even, actually that was a time when nobody used to even visit us. A few analysts used to come to
Yeah.
Bombay to 5 companies in Bangalore or
Right.
something.
Right.
Yeah. So wonderful. So I have Chalapati with me. He's
Sure.
our Chief Financial Officer. I have Shivram with us, who's our compliance head, and I have Srini, who's part of the legal and secretarial team, and he's actually ensuring that we're all
Yeah.
tracking.
My colleague Mudita has joined. She'll just.
Morning, Sunil.
Yeah.
Morning,
Hi, good
Mudita.
morning. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Mudita. Okay, so what we thought was when Sunil reached out to me a couple of days ago, given the new SEBI guidelines, it's actually quite interesting that we are now, this is our first call that we will fully record and upload onto the website and have a full transcription out. So it's new for all of us. With that, I also thought that we would provide you with what Sunil wants, which is a real reacquaintance of himself and you, Mudita, with the company. He said that I don't want to know anything, the numbers, etc. I'll wait for the quarter end. But really, I want to use this time to understand the business. As he mentioned earlier, he has visited us when our market cap was 15 crores and we were a tiny company. So I think this is a really nice moment. So Sunil, with your permission, I'll just load up the slides.
Thanks a lot for taking time out to appraise us about the new Dynamatic.
Right. And the nice thing is what I'll do is I will use the slides I used at the last AGM to just give you a flavor of the company, and whatever questions you'll have after I present it, you can please ask me and I will,
Sure.
or my team will answer. Thank you.
Sure.
Are you able to see these slides?
Yeah, I can very clearly. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So if you just look at our business, as you know, Sunil, right in the beginning, when you visited us, we were a company that made hydraulic pumps that had recently started making parts for Hyundai Motor Company. And you saw my little garage at the back of the hydraulic plant where I was making some small stuff for the DRDO and Ministry of Defense, which was really my passion, which was the aerospace business. And since then, we've come a long way. The business has evolved, and we have these three verticals, and they have their own three dynamics, which I'll talk about. All right. So let me just get this slide running. Srini, I don't know why the slides aren't moving forward. This thing seems to be on, but no, it's not. Let me try it manually. Okay. All right. So we'll just move to the next slide. It's hanging some. Yeah. So at the core of the business, Sunil, what we were able to do was over the years, and I think this is really the main part of the business, is the ability of our company to design and engineer products. So one of the things that happened was we were making hydraulic pumps, which are very highly engineered. They pump oil at 4,000 pounds per square inch. and they're used in tractors, bulldozers, drill rigs, excavators, very heavy duty applications. And therefore, they're high precision and highly engineered. What we did was build a whole engineering competence around it that allowed us to move left into mass production, which was automotive, and right into aerospace, which is low volume, high value. And so you created a whole uh, business which was in highly engineered products, but with different volumes and different cycles. The aerospace business, which was far more profitable than the automotive business, was very lumpy. The automotive business, which was like skim milk, gave you daily cash flow. So it, in a way, they complemented each other very well during that period. And at the heart of it was the engineering talent. Now, all along, over the last 7, 8 years, when in the beginning, a lot of people who came and visited us, they used to look at the aerospace business and think it was just a distraction, and you should focus on automotive. 20 years ago, there was a boom, and as people started seeing the rising margins that were coming from aerospace, our shareholders started guiding us and expecting more and more of this business and a better mix, and they started wanting less and less automotive, more and more of the aerospace business. Now, aerospace uh, in India is a limited volume game because you're really supplying to HAL and they are supplying to the Ministry of Defense. But there's a large global market out there, and over the last decade and a half, we were able to become a sole supplier worldwide and a tier one, a super tier one to Airbus for civilian aircraft products, to Boeing for military aircraft, and to Bell Helicopter for the whole fuselage of their largest selling helicopter. So with that, three things we were able to achieve. One was the technical competence, of course, to scale within that vertical. The second was really a great competence and a market share with global players rather than being an Indian player. Most of our sales, over 90% of our sales, are to these global companies. And then the third, from a company perspective, under the hood, while we kept the top line the same, we were just reconfiguring, using the same space, the same factories, the same engineers, and reducing automotive and increasing aerospace. And I think this slide shows it very well. Something that is quite imperceptible if you try and look at this over a long time, you don't perceive it. But when you see a slide like this that shows you what was our sale by division in 2018 and what was it in 2020, you see that lo and behold, what we sought to do is actually now happened. Next one, please. So also what happened was we created a hybrid business model where we globalized our business. So we realized that to be a global tier one, there are multiple factors of production. There's man, there's machine, there's material, there's money, there's mind, which is design, there's marketplaces, and they have different cost structures. So while everybody looks at India as a low cost economy, it's actually not a low cost economy. Cost of capital is very high. We don't have qualified raw material suppliers. And when you talk about aerospace, you take out a huge amount of the raw materials taken out from the part, it's machined off. And in India, it would be soft scrap. In the UK, we're able to brick it and give it back to the mill. So what we did was we set up our tier two manufacturing in Europe, where we'd get certified raw material from the qualified suppliers. And then we would machine it and take the net shape, which is very light and highly engineered, and send it to India. Now, the assembly process is very laborious. It's very human intensive, very artisanal. That's what we created in India. So what we did was we turned um, the entire supply chain around on its head, and this is now being studied. This is a case study at IIM in India, and it's going to be a case study in one of the world's top 5 business schools. They're working on this right now. So it's a very interesting thing. It's the first time so-called low-cost country supplier really instead of taking the tier 2 and tier 3 part away, took the tier 1 part away. And at a very low cost, high automation level, with robots and with low cost of capital, we set up the manufacturing of the machine parts in Europe. So it's also become very interesting thing that caught the eye of the governments. So if you see this, this is really in one slide, the secret of our success. Taking, and the nice thing here is this is not rocket science and this is not a PhD level economics. This is what we all learned in 10th grade and 11th grade. It's basic common sense. You flow your value creation to the area where it's best uh, costed out and best executed out. And that's what we did here. And the hidden benefit was once we started machining all the parts in UK, the net shape of the part was only about 8 to 10% of the weight of the raw material. So it was, instead of sending it by ship and wasting 3 months of WIP, working capital cycles, we just send it by air. All our transfers are by air. These are aerospace parts. They're very high density in terms of value and low weight. So they're perfect for flying. And they are able to reduce, by doing this, we're able to reduce our working capital cycle. All right. Now, coming back to what we do. So in Airbus, as I said, it's really commercial jets. In Boeing, it's military aircraft, and Bell is helicopters. So this is another thing that we sought to do. We wanted to be 25% rotary wing, which is helicopters, 75% fixed wing. And we wanted to be roughly half and half defense and civilian. And a lot of people, again, criticized us, saying that, look, if you look at the effort in defense, you will have much lower volumes to the same amount of engineering work, whereas in commercial jetliners, you get a far larger volume. And we always looked at this as really a mitigation of risk. That, after 2008, when we saw the whole global market go down of aircraft, after 9/11, you saw aircraft production down. This almost counter-cyclical. And in COVID time, this has really paid us good dividends. So I'll just show you how that worked. So the other interesting thing is, along the way, when we were expanding our automotive business, we also grew into BMW, Audi, Mercedes, and Porsche, and we acquired a foundry in Germany. Now, across the world, there's our intention. In fact, we've just we have announced and all the definitive agreements, so they're already out in the public sphere, announced to the stock exchanges, that we are in the process of divesting the last part of our automotive business in India. So this leaves one foundry that we own in Germany. Now, what's very interesting is Germany, again, is a unique place. It's a place with a lot of engineering and manufacturing knowledge, and it's an advanced economy which consumes. So there are global sales campaigns by companies like Boeing into Germany, and like in India, there are Make in India, there are national requirements by all these countries. So we are actually looking at all our global customers, as they have plans to sell into the European community, to pivot this facility away from automotive production, which we hope to do over the next few years. So as we shrink the business in automotive, and we've actually shrunk the business quite dramatically, and we've just kept it in a holding pattern where you'll just kind of, have a bare bones business to keep it going while we start building the aerospace facility on top. It's a very good asset. There are workers there who are metal workers, German metal workers who've been metal workers for generations. This is the site is actually a 650-year-old site of continuous foundry making as Erla, the company we own. And therefore, there's a huge reputation for castings and forgings and metallurgical parts. And going forward, there's a shortage of metallurgical products in the aerospace global supply chain. So there are great opportunities for us, which we hope to build in the next couple of years. But I'll just move on with this slide and I'll talk about the current business. So with all this happening, what is important is we were all hit. It's not us, but as a global business, of course, you're in automotive, you're in hydraulics, you're in aerospace, and your global customers. So you've got to have an impact. And like everybody, we got an impact. Let me show you how we reacted. So even before the lockdown, we were seeing these trends in January. In February, on the 5th of February, we started holding town hall meetings. We had, public skits, and we started displaying stuff out, and started our anti-COVID activities. In March, we started mass screening with the Indian Institute of Science. Some scientists there, we were able to bring out the latest technology on testing, and we created a screening and testing capability from March itself. So we tested everybody in our company before even the lockdown, and we work closely with the government, with the government of Karnataka and with the government of Tamil Nadu, where we are operating. And both these states, when the lockdown took place, they separately exempted in the defense and aerospace industry, like medical, because they realized that this was part of the Make in India story. Companies like ours, or especially ourselves, where we are a global sole supplier, the whole Make in India story rested on business continuity. And we assured the governments and we showed them what we were doing. And in fact, a lot of what went into public policy was also informed by some of the experiments we did along with the Indian Institute of Science in scaling up test capability. As you know, we have India's finest private biosecurity facility. It's located 400 yards behind where I'm sitting. It's within the company. All our employees are tested every 2 weeks, and we've got negligible, very, very low infection rates, and we're doing very detailed testing and contact tracing. And so we continued our business, and we were able to grow it. And most importantly, the markets, while we were running, the markets around us were changing. So how did we act with that? We had clean facilities, we had good manufacturing practices, and we were ready to run at full pace. But the market was not ready. We were invested for growth in Airbus. Airbus actually has a remarkable growth trajectory ahead of us in the years ahead because of 2 or 3 things. One is that there's a global duopoly, Airbus and Boeing. Within that global duopoly, Boeing has had some setbacks in the 737 jetliner, the MAX. It's almost just A320 versus the 737. Now we are sole suppliers on the A320 family for the flap track beam assemblies, and the volumes that we see going forward are tremendous. I mean, I'm not talking about this COVID period, but I'm talking about over a period of time. The global market for aircraft is growing. The economies have grown, and typically civil aviation grows at exactly twice the rate of growth of GDP. So if GDP is growing, civil aviation grows. Now, within Dynamatic, as I mentioned, we had always tried to keep this 50-50 benchmark. We never achieved 50-50. It was 44% defense, 56% civilian. And we tried to reach a quarter of helicopters, but it was like 21% for mitigation. This is a very old slide, which we brought out and showed to our shareholders last year. Really, it was our vision of risk mitigation. But this has really stood us in good state, because when the civilian market for aircraft last year had an impact, we were able to pivot the 44% and grow that and take up a lot of the slack. So let me show you. We also had some challenges in the north border of India, so we pivoted with some manufacturing that was very critical. So some of the Airbus lines were used for this production. And then for the Tejas LCA, which is the Indian homegrown fighter jet, we make the main fuselage assembly. And we use this period to produce the first one. We delivered it. And again, this was seen as a big success story with the Ministry of Defense. We also utilized our capacity and manpower and technical capabilities to develop toolings, a very large number of toolings for Rafale manufacturing for Dassault. And let me show you some of these things. These are really highly engineered. These are manufacturing tools, very, very accurate. I don't think there are very many people, forget about India, across the world that can produce these kind of things and also produce the parts and also produce major assemblies. And I think that's what's important. We're able to switch on and be customer centric. When Boeing and Saab developed the Boeing P-7, it's the world's latest aircraft. It's a kind of a trainer, military trainer, but it also has hardpoints, so it can be used in some battles. It's the world's first aircraft completely designed in a digital environment. And so the testing, for structural load and fatigue, the equipment was actually developed by us and delivered to them in 90 days. And so that again, we used that period of the, of the lockdown and of the COVID induced environmental, economic environment to really fill it up with other businesses. In the north, again, this is something we've developed along with IIT Kanpur. We have a close relationship with them, working on products that will give some line of sight and visibility and recce capabilities to our military forces. And then the big surprise and big pleasant surprise was the V-shaped recovery, which has just been extraordinary in our tractor production. And here, we have 75% market share in hydraulic pumps for Indian tractors. This has actually grown because of our safety for COVID. It's a duopoly again, us and Bosch, and we've been able to take some market share off them over the last few months. But this has been on fire. We are producing at record numbers now. And the other interesting thing is that we are also the world's largest producer of hydraulic gear pumps for tractors. 34% of the tractors produced in the world last year have Dynamatic pumps in them. So I think this is now a very nice balance that we've got. We've got the defense and civilian aerospace within that profitable business. We've got this, which is a nicer volume business, but a nicer margin than automotive. And again, it's growing. And we are actually using the automotive assets either to bring it into these businesses or to monetize them and to improve the balance sheet. So just before the lockdown, we had had the National Fluid Power Exhibition where we launched 5 new products, and those products also are growing. As I said, we have a very strong engineering team. During this period, we also developed the world's lowest cost ventilator. It's, for 3,000 rupees, you have a mechanical ventilator that works perfectly and it gives you data on a mobile phone. 3,000 rupees. You just plug it into a oxygen cylinder and you turn the dials. And of course, you need somebody who knows how to use a ventilator. But at a low cost, this is what we can deploy. And actually, we've been doing some CSR work and helping out. But potentially, while we did this as a response, we also got certified for ISO 13485, which is the medical devices, which again is like aerospace certification. These particular products were also certified by underwriters laboratories, so they can be technically sold anywhere on the planet. So I think what's interesting is that we are really a design house that's able to react very quickly to needs around us. And what is important is now we're taking assets and monetizing them and using them and shifting them into parts where you where you generate a return or just return it to the bank and uh, reduce your cost of capital, etc. So if you look at the other part of reduction of capital cost, over the last many years, we've always had 150, 160 crores of EBITDA. But the large part of that has gone to finance the banks rather than
Right.
come into the shareholders' pockets. So what we're doing this time is two things we did is that over the last 4 or 5 years, we increased our exports. We were really an Indian company, as I shared earlier, but the exports, aerospace is almost entirely exports. And so we were exporting. We took a very prudent amount of our debt and we swapped it. So that saves you cost. It drops your cost of capital. And and then we also are monetizing assets, which I'll come to. I have talked about what we've already announced, but let me just show you as we go along. And so I think also what's interesting is as we sell all the automotive assets that we've got in Tamil Nadu, we also owned a wind farm that used to produce and generate power and give it to our aluminum foundry, which we sold earlier, now to our iron foundry, which is almost gone, as we announced in the stock market. It's the final CPs are being done. So what happens is this is interesting because this asset is near the Sulur Air Force Base and it is 450 acres of freehold land. Now, the beauty is that the governments themselves have approached us for utilization of this land for the defense corridor, which was announced. There are two defense corridors. One is in the north, one is in the south, and so the defense corridor should essentially start on this land because it's actually become almost impossible to buy land now. It's very difficult with farm protests. And so 450 acres gives them a very good start. It's very well located between the Sulur Air Force Base and the Coimbatore Airport. And so this will be the next asset and I think as we go forward, you'll see all the benefits flowing through to the balance sheet in addition to what we're doing in terms of the business. This is the facility that, all along last year, people were talking about, a pivot of global companies away from China to look at alternative manufacturing. So this is an interesting study. We have a very fine and large foundry company based in the United States that we've had some interactions with 5 or 6 years ago in Germany. And they were looking to expand capacity in Asia. They already run business in China, in Vietnam. They have an entity in India, but not a foundry. And they're a very large foundry business, $2.5 billion. So what is interesting is they know this foundry well. They know the quality of the foundry. The beauty of this foundry is that it's actually a great success story for our customers and from a technical perspective. We won every award possible, but for us as shareholders, it's absolutely a disaster. So, it's a great place to win awards and a great place to burn money. And so the beauty of it is when we transfer this onto this company, they're buying it at full asset value. So we have no loss in it. They're not looking at it because they're seeing the quality and they are very clear that this is the kind of business that will give them the kind of world-class castings that they need for their global markets. So they've come in and it's a very seamless transition that'll take place in a very extremely short time, in days or weeks. And therefore, and as we've already announced. And so I think this will also reduce our management focus into what we want to do. It'll reduce, it'll take off the one business that was burning cash on our P&L and it'll reduce the capital employed. So everything that you see is a tick and it's a green tick. So I think that's a very interesting thing. And with that, I just kind of give you a snapshot of where we are today. That's where we are, Sunil. So
Okay.
let's just get back onto the video. I'll just switch this off.
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry, just taking a second. Yeah. All right. So that's our business, and I think you know it in the way you saw it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think you know what we were saying and seeing, and I think 20 years later we've kind of done it, and now what we're trying to do is, channel it and make it into a more profitable
Yeah.
business, because
So,
building the business is quite
Toby,
expensive.
is it now fair to presume that auto would be not a business for us? Because we
I
have
think
one
what
foundry, and that also we will move to aerospace. That is what you
yes,
said.
so we will start defining it as a metallurgy business.
Okay.
I think, see, if we didn't have this COVID by now, we would already have had announced some aerospace business, because we were planning to do something last year at the air show in
Hmm.
June. And unfortunately, this COVID has changed timelines, but the intent hasn't changed. The intent is that that's a very high quality German foundry, and for global customers in aerospace, to qualify a supplier that does production for Porsche and BMW and Audi and Daimler, to get to defense and civilian aircraft, it's almost the same in terms of quality requirement. It's different from saying I'll put up something in China, and nobody wants to go there anymore.
But in India, we will not have any auto business now.
We will have only hydraulics and aerospace.
Right. And in terms of hydraulics, what is a
Yes.
per vehicle opportunity for us? Like,
Okay, that's a very beautiful question. So we are king of mass production, of market share, but we have a very small wallet share. It's a brilliant question, because that's exactly what we're doing. So we have pumps which are between 1.5 and 2,000 rupees per tractor. When you look at the hydraulics on a tractor, it's about 25, 30,000 rupees. So we have developed a hitch lift, we have developed the depth and draft control valves. We've developed the control valves for the power steering. We've developed all that products, and we've actually started selling them to introduced them, and they're already in use and procured by various OEMs. So potentially, over the next 5-8 years, the growth story for us will no longer be market share; it'll be about wallet share. Exactly the question you asked. I mean, it's perfect. That's what we are working on. And I think what I talked about, those new products we launched 18 months ago, those are all different products for the tractor.
and technology in making those products is not an issue.
The technology, we are masters. We have labs in UK and India, because we bought the old Plessey company, which is one of the two original roots of gear pump design in UK. So where we have we actually have two factories in UK. We have the old hydraulics plant, which is a very large plant, and we had bought a small family business in Bristol. We're in the process of moving all the aerospace and hydraulics into one location, which is a very large location. So our idea is eventually we'll have three big footprints, one in Bangalore, one in Germany, and one in UK. The Bangalore footprint and the UK footprint will be mirrored. There'll be aerospace and hydraulics. And the German footprint will be a feeder into it, which will be the metallurgical
Yes.
part supplying into it.
You're right. And in terms of coming again to the tractor side, when we launch new hydraulic parts, what is the response? Like, there must be already companies who are doing that for the tractor
Terrific.
manufacturers.
No, it's terrific, because let me tell you, it's a very big surprise. Most of the tractor OEMs, they build their own hitch lifts. Just historically, they build their own hitch lifts, they build their own valves, and these are all dated technologies, like 40 years of what they're doing. So we're coming up with innovations, and we're saying, why wouldn't you want to just make more tractors? I mean, you've got
Right.
that one plant making hitch
But
lifts.
Toby, just out of curiosity and playing the devil's advocate, what
Yeah.
took us so long to get into other hydraulic products? We
No,
have the customer.
So we were fighting for market share, which now we've tapped out. We are 75% India, 34% world. So that Firstly, when you've got a blue sky ahead of you, you fight for that. The second thing is it's not only new. We've been making hitch lifts for Same Deutschfahr, which is the smallest tractor OEM in India, but it's a global, it's the third largest tractor player in the world. We make, I think, 1,800 tractor hitch lifts. That's at 20,000 each every month. And those are exported across the world. So we already have a business for 10 years in hitch lift and all that, but it was for one specific customer. Now what we're doing is we have developed customer by customer hitch lift options, depth and draft valve options. So products, these are very interesting products that will come in, and these are, like I said, which will unveil themselves over the next few years.
Right.
And there's
Anything else?
one more thing that I'd like to say is during this COVID, one of the things that our customers started valuing us for, which was they always valued us for value creation, quality, delivery, cost, and design. This time they really valued us for the pivots we made and how we sustained the business, because they had a lot of disruption from other suppliers. They had no disruption from us. So we used to have calls with everybody and they were like, what you all are doing is amazing, and can we just share some of this data with some other suppliers? And we said, sure. So I think across the line, customers appreciated it. And I think going forward, especially the global aerospace for the supply chain. And with both Airbus and Boeing, we are at their gold ratings, which is the highest ratings. So I think we're in a very good position to grow and to expand over the next 5-8 years. The hydraulics business, what is interesting is because of this demand growth, suddenly people like us who have a real technology proposition to offer them have also got pricing power. These customers are willing to pay us for it because these are proprietary products. Tractor OEMs buy things by weight. They buy castings, they buy forgings, they buy literally, they have the toughest negotiators. But they also want performance parts and they're willing to pay for it. And I think that's the thing that we've,
And
over the last, yeah.
on the hydraulic front, apart from tractors, any other opportunities? Like,
Yeah, big opportunities is
building like
infrastructure.
materials,
Yeah,
those.
infrastructure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Forklift trucks, bulldozers, cranes, drill rigs. And to begin with, even the tractor is becoming now partly a construction equipment. So if you look at what has happened during COVID, a lot of the taxi drivers from Bombay who ran away and went back to their villages, they've become tractor drivers now. They've gone and bought tractors. This is part of the tractor boom. They've got financing, they bought tractors. They'll go to a farm, they'll plow it. So the farmer doesn't buy the tractor. This guy owns his tractor. The farmer calls him. Then what happens is when the season is off, he will go and do work hauling material for construction or for road building. So I think we are finding a very hybridized development of the infrastructure in rural areas in India. And that's going to be a big boom, I think. Construction equipment, tractors, bulldozers, and the elements that go into these things.
Right. On the aerospace front, again, what is our, like you mentioned, we are the sole suppliers of flaps for A320. Yeah.
For the
So what is
A318,
again the value proposition per aircraft, and how do we improve that?
Okay, so one of the things that we've successfully done is we participated with Airbus in re-engineering and redesigning the flap track beam. So that's quite a significant thing, that you're not just a supplier, you actually redesigned along with the customer. And from the end of this year, we will be delivering a product that is different from what we were producing and delivering for the last 13, 14 years. And it's within the same design envelope, but it's a monolithic design, and it brings in a lot of work share into our UK facility, new work share that is, you see, we manufactured a ton of parts there, but here you go into a monolithic design where instead of having 200 parts per beam, you're actually reducing the number of parts to about 20 bigger parts. So the fit and assembly becomes more exacting, and therefore it's a better product, but it's also something that creates greater value for us as part of the supply chain.
Mhm. Okay. And on the
Okay, and
edge,
then there are, of course, sorry, and that is within that product. But what I'm saying is, of course, we are in a hiatus. We are not able to meet customers, go face to face. But I'm saying you're in a very good position with all the customers where going forward, we'll have all the kind of opportunities to bid for other stuff that are there. We have multiple campaigns, but everything is on hold.
yeah,
One country shuts down, the other country opens. That's what's
yeah.
been happening last 4 months, 5, 6 months.
No, so Toby, we have the best names. We have Airbus, we have Boeing, we have Bell, we have Dassault. I don't think we can have a better
Better.
customer sort of roster.
Yeah.
For us to grow multifold, obviously the products which we are doing now will go up. We will add new products, and hopefully, as we move forward, we'll also add new customers. So, in
Yes.
terms of capability, are there any gaps? Second, in terms of infrastructure, was is it like a very capital intensive kind of a thing, or it's more a technology and manpower intensive thing for us to grow?
Okay. So this is very interesting because of our manufacturing design. Uh, the capital intensive part is very fine machines with robots, which we place in Europe, where the cost of capital is low, where you have suppliers, world-class machine tool suppliers who are willing to place the equipment and lease it to you on an operation lease, right? So it's very simple. You own the building, you own the land, they come, they put the machine there, they charge you by the hour. So it's a very simple and good business. Now, where is the labor? The labor, which is to fit it together, the artisanal workmanship, the craftsman, that's over here. And that is where you have the ability. We also run a ITI at the Bangalore Devanali Airport. It's run by Dynamatic. It belongs to the government. We run that as CSR, but we're generating world-class aerospace workers from artisan communities in the local villages. So we have that ability. We have the access to best machine tools in Germany and UK, and of course their capital. So I think by design we are in a good position. We have a 29-acre campus at the Bangalore airport, so that gives us a huge headroom over the next decade or even beyond that to grow unlimited within that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have to spend more on capex per se to grow this
CapEx
company.
is very simple now. Just give you an idea. To build hangars for aircraft are very not as expensive because the real value is in the land and infrastructure that we've already put in place. So the incremental CapEx is very effective for us as a company.
Hmm. And in terms of obviously the vision has always been great, but you yourself said, that last 5, 7 years, obviously there have been challenges on the auto side and so on and so forth, and a lot of our EBITDA has been eaten away by interest cost, leaving very little for the equity,
Yeah,
holders per se.
yeah.
How does that change? Like, what is needed for that to change? This small divestment of a foundry will help, but it's still small. But how will that change? Like, does the
No,
top
no.
line have to grow?
The big see on the balance sheet side, two things will change. One is the cost of capital, the second is the quantum of capital. So it's not just the foundry that is being divested. So the foundry is being divested. I mentioned that the wind farm will become part of a defense industrial corridor that will generate a large chunk of divestment money, and all that will flow into debt reduction. And the advantage we have as a global business is now access to no longer 10% cost of capital. What we are borrowing now in India with the swap is at half that. And looking at I mean, the numbers across India as companies become dollarized in sales, as long as they have the natural hedges, so they're not at risk. And you saw the slide I presented to the shareholders against a $50 million export on aerospace, which is very stable. And we're talking about worst year case, the really horrible time. We've only swapped 26 million. So we're being very, very prudent in terms of our risk profile. But it'll dramatically change the way. So one is you reduce the quantum of debt. The second is the cost of that debt. Suddenly you see the flow of existing profits into pockets of shareholders rather than pockets of the bankers. So that's point number one. The second part of it is that we are in a COVID situation. But as this COVID thing lifts, and let me tell you, you saw what happened yesterday with Israel. They have opened up, they've removed
Yeah.
masks. So you're seeing a laboratory, the world's largest laboratory is an entire small country, where they're actually testing out how the vaccine is playing out. And across the world, we are seeing as countries are more vaccinated, their infection rates are falling quite dramatically. It'll open up the economies. And with the whole global quantum of cash at the levels that they are now, you're going to see activity. Right now, all the money is in investment funds and in stock markets, but once it's spent, the GDP, you're going to see big growth, and travel and all that is going to be a big part of it,
No.
including food, which comes to tractors and roads and everything.
To be, one last question. We are constrained because obviously you have your results coming in, and we can have a call again after the results. But just
Yeah.
one top-down question. We have quite a few Indian companies doing work for, Boeing and Airbus and some other companies. Some on the offset side, some otherwise. But none of them have gone on to become like a two, three, four, $500 million business opportunities. We have companies who do 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million of work, but that's about it. So what is the constraint there? Like, why don't we go beyond that scale? Even for us, we reach that scale, but we have been stuck in that range for a variety
Yeah.
of reasons. Sometimes it is COVID, sometimes it is something else. Like, is that what they're comfortable with, or there is scope obviously to go much beyond that?
Okay, two things. One is our customers want us to be much bigger than we are. They are already talking to us and saying, look, in all our evaluations, you all are outperforming far bigger peers, and we don't look at your peer. They don't look at us with Indian peers. It's all global peers. Firstly, the benchmarking. The second element, so we have that real customer side uh, aspiration that, wow, we would want more to come out of this company. So that's a really good thing, and we want to grow with the customer. So it's very mutual. The second element is what you said earlier about the offsets. Most Indian companies are limited by offset. They see opportunity that I'm going to get an offset. So the government of India buys 10 aircraft, and these guys get orders for 10 aircraft into some widgets. We have never looked at an offset based business. We see offset as almost a byproduct. We have a little passbook that the customer can tick off and show the government that, look, I'm buying from India. But all our programs are global, sole supply, global programs. We bid against all the big players across the world, and we fight commercially to win those contracts. And it's not offset based. So they are much bigger and they're more sustainable. So what happens is, when the government has bought, let's say, 15 aircraft, and a company in India gets an offset to build, they make 15 and then they have a plant and they have no business after that. Our business is not limited by what the government of India bought. That notwithstanding, it is great that the government of India has emerged as a big, or rather, India has emerged as a big market for aircraft. Just so you know, in India, Boeing is the big success story in aerospace from a defense perspective. But in civilian aircraft, Airbus is 73% market share. So,
Mm.
in a strange way, we have followed the market rather than following offset, because Airbus doesn't have offsets. They sell everything to private airlines, so they have no offset obligations. But in a balancing sense, they are here to stay, both these companies in India. They're
Right.
very big markets here.
And for us, Airbus and Boeing selling more aircrafts would mean more business for us, right? There's a one-on-one
More
correlation.
business, at the top level, top of the head, India is now one of their top 3 markets in the world, top 3 most important markets. So they're already getting engineering out of Bangalore, and they're getting market out of India, and they're getting manufacturing from us out of Bangalore. So what is interesting is Boeing's largest engineering center outside of United States and Dynamatic's facility, the new facility at the airport, are right next to each other. And one of those products that I showed you, the digital testing stuff, we did in 90 days in conjunction with their engineering team. We did the manufacturing, they did the engineering. So it's an immense opportunity going forward with all these companies.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
No, I think this is all I have. It was really great to touch base and refresh all the pleasant memories. Hopefully, next air show I would definitely be there.
Yes.
Taking advantage of all the nice hospitality you always present. And once the results are out, I would request another half an hour call so that
Yes.
we can discuss numbers also.
Sure. Absolutely, simple.
I appreciate that we are in a silent period right now, and we will not like to do anything which is against the regulations. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
And,
thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chalapatti, and thanks, Mr. Shiva and Mr. Srini.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we will touch base personally. Thanks,
Sure.
Toby. Best wishes. Stay
Yeah,
safe.
thank you. Thank you. Stay safe, and I hope it was useful for Mudita.
Yeah, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All
She
right.
just wanted to be in a meeting. I
Lovely.
think she was getting
Great.
bored
Thank
since
you.
morning, so she was pestering me to give some work. So I said, "You join the call."
Good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you, Mudita.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, Sunil. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you.